live from the holy city of Karbala, where we are lamenting the tragedy of Imam Hussein and looking at how his lessons impact us and can impact us, and how we can be inspired by his story in this day and age. I'm honored to be joined by my dear guest, Sayyid AlHakeem. Assalamu alaikum, Sayyid.
Assalamu rahmatullah.
Thank you once again.
Inshallah.
Alhamdulillah, you're going to be here reciting for us, inshallah. But before we get into that, I think off camera we spoke about a topic that we can tackle nowadays. As a reciter, as someone who stands upon the pulpit of Fatima Zahra and spreads the words toward the masses, as we know, it's a very big responsibility. I was actually reading some words of advice from Ayatollah Sayyid Sistani, who hands out advice before Muharram to the speakers in terms of, some tips that they should take on board before they get on the mamba and recite. And again, that extends to anyone who's standing up and delivering the message of Imam Hussein, like yourself, like myself as well. And I think one of the things that kind of stood out for me was, just reading that it reminded me of the sense of responsibility that anyone like me or you, even me here now presenting the show, has in portraying the message of Imam Hussein. And as we know, and we spoke about this off camera as well, when it comes to recitation, it's very, very unfortunate. It's something that can really anyone can suffer from. When they stand in front of masses, their ego gets to them, their arrogance gets to them a bit. As if forgetting that it was Allah that put them there and Imam Hussein that allows them to recite. So how do you tackle that, or generally how do you think reciters should tackle that? Being someone who recites, who stands in front of the masses, what advice would you give to people who are standing up? And by the way, this is actually a common question that people ask me who are reciting themselves. They say, listen, how can I not let my ego, my arrogance get to me when I'm standing in front of masses? I actually know people who recite very well but choose not to recite or choose not to put out tracks and lamentations in honor of Imam Hussein just because they fear that they're doing it for the wrong reasons. So what would you say about that? What advice would you give to people?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. It's a very important topic, and one topic which the general public might not actually think of, because naturally when you see a person wearing a turban, for example doing a lecture, or a reciter wearing the black gowns, for example, or even a poet, they just think that this person is a holy figure, and naturally everything's done with good intention. But the matter of fact is, we're all human, and we are all the sons of Adam, which means that we're not fallible. We do make mistakes, and naturally, I feel like it's in life anyway. In general, for example, if a person was a general worker in an office who ended up moving up to the stage of manager, which later became CEO, naturally have the inclination of superiority. But when that feeling comes, it comes with a feeling of power, as if you're better than everyone else. And it's not just necessarily with recitations, like we said. It could be at work, it could be like, for example, if you're a good sportsman, many things. When that position of power comes along, the individual feels that they have some kind of authority over people, and that almost bigotry. And when a person has that feeling, it is actually challenging God's oneness and greatness.
They say it's a form of shirk.
Shirk, ahsantum. So it's like a form of shirk, and that is a very, very big sin. So of course we don't want to scare people, but it's something that's very, very important, because if a person does something with the wrong intention, then there will be no good deeds, I believe, or deeds will be minimized a lot. And if a person does their act, it'll be almost a waste of time. Now, how to overcome this problem? This is a gradual process. It doesn't happen overnight, and it's something that requires self-building and self-character.
Just to add to that, I believe there's a hadith that says that, I think it's by either the Prophet or the Ahl-Bayt, where he says that arrogance is like a black ant on a black rock in the dark of the night. Allah. That's how it creeps up on you.
It is, subhanallah, that's the analogies that they use is mind-boggling. So to overcome this problem, it can be very tricky. Certainly can be very tricky, and it can sometimes take some time, but the main thing is self-reflection. And it's about, what am I doing in this life? What is the point of my existence? And from that you can start to put the puzzle together. So one of the big problems is a lot of people, what they do is say if they are an average reciter or an average lecturer or poet, and they don't really have the status. I feel like because of the social media, which has been driven by a certain power force in this world, it has given the ideology of an effect where it's There's certain people are at the top of this pyramid and everyone else is just a slavering
It
workforce.
pushes forward the idea of narcissism. That's what social media
Basically,
is based on, yeah.
basically. And because majority of man is on social media these days, that kind of force has been implemented in all of us without us realizing. It is the individuals who realize that they're in this situation are the ones who actually wake up and figure out what's going on. So when a person is in that state of mind, they feel like, okay, what's the top? This person has 1 million subscribers to their YouTube channel.
That's what I have to get to.
So I have to, and that will become their goal. Their goal isn't actually, for example, we've got Abu Fadl Abbas behind us. Their goal wouldn't be to do as much service like Abu Fadl Abbas. It is said that Abu Fadl Abbas, when he used to sit next to Imam Hussein, he wouldn't be sitting like a normal person. He'd be sitting with his knees on the floor as if ready, what can I give you next at his service? Oh master, not his brother, he calls him oh master. So that's the kind of level of thoughts we need to do and have when we are serving these individuals. If we're trying to go down this ideology of trying to become the number one, then we are just challenging God and we're not actually serving these individuals. So to actually solve this problem, the main thing to do is to have the self-reflection. When a person self-reflects, and it could be anything, it's not even reciter or poet. It could be, for example, I'm at work and I earn more money than the person next to me. I'm a better at my job than him. That's wrong. That's wrong.
The mentality is wrong, yeah.
It's the intention. So once a person I feel like if a person tries to actually focus, I feel like if we give up on reciting and poetry because of this, I don't think that's a good thing to do. I feel like if you want to pause and then bring it back into it as soon as possible, because the khidmah needs to maintain, we need to maintain it. So self-reflection, improving intention, and then get back on the service so we can inshallah improve it ourselves. But it's very important.
Sayyid, of course we're blessed here to be with you and hear from your beautiful recitations and participate in lamentation. So please, if you can recite Al-Atmiyah for us, and of course also introduce it for us as well, if you don't mind.
Sure thing. So this is a poem called Wa Husayna Wa Shahida, a generic poem about the masa'ib of Ahl al-Bayt, what happened on the day of Ashura, written by the poet Sayyid Sa'id al-Hakeem. وحسينا وشهيدا وحسينا وشهيدا. A bright glare, the hot sun burning in the sky, the relentless wind blowing ever so dry. Each footstep taken falls on the unyielding land. Each footstep taken falls onto the burning sand. O Hussein's hardships in Karbala wa Husayna wa Shahida wa Husayna wa Shahida. 4 days you did not have any water to drink. The thirst would make it hard for any of us to think. Yet you continued with the intentions. You came even though you knew that your death would just come the same. O Hussein struggles in Karbala wa Husayna wa Shahida wa Husayna wa Shahida. Then against an insurmountable foe you were that day only a few who your fate they would share, and against such large numbers they were so brave, knowing on this day they'd be going to their graves. Your difficulties in Karbala wa Husayna wa Shahida wa Husayna wa Shahida. You were all there spreading Islam with every breath, trying to save all those you couldn't, till your deaths so few in numbers, yet it is the quality on that day. We know yours was the great army, Hussein's remembered for eternity. Wa Husseina wa shahida, wa Husseina wa shahida. That day there was such a great difficulty, having to watch the death of your own family. Truly Karbala was a great tragedy, the day we will remember throughout history. Oh Hussein, Ya Aba Abdillah wa Husseina wa shahida, wa Husseina wa shahida.
Ahsan Sayyid, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. It's such a blessing to be able to hear you recite, and you know, it amazes me, especially when I come here to Karbala. You walk around and you hear all the classic Iraqi reciters, Hamza Saghair, Abdul Zahar al-Ka'bi, these people, you hear their voices all over the city of Karbala, and you think about how far the lamentation of Imam Hussein has come today. You know, 60 years ago, in terms of our Shia ancestors, were in their local cities, in their local villages, standing up, reciting in Urdu and Persian, in Arabic, in their local mosques, trying to push forward the message of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And today, subhanAllah, we're living in a completely different world now, and we're standing up and reciting poetry of Imam Hussein in English. People are now today not only doing poetry, moving towards spoken word, and generally, you know, trying to influence or trying to show the mainstream Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And even the initiatives that we have going on in London, we have fantastic work by organizations like Who's Hussein and various other organizations who are standing there and really pushing the message of Imam Hussein toward the Western audience. And it goes back to the story that Sayyid Ali was saying when he was here about the American soldier who was standing in Karbala, seeing thousands of people coming toward a 1,000-year-old shrine and thinking, what is this? And now, alhamdulillah, the message is being pushed out there, his message, even though for 1,000 years it never really left the vicinity of Arabia, which I find really amazing.
It really is remarkable. I mean, the whole tragedies of all the Ahlul Bayt, stemming from the Prophet Muhammad down to now, which is Imam al-Mahdi, who's seeing all the sins of mankind, and that is a tragedy in itself. I have a story of a friend of mine. They are actually living in the city of Bradford, and
the great city of Bradford.
That's basically and this individual, they are from an Afghani origin, and I believe a majority or a lot of the type of Afghanistanis that they were, majority of them are actually Sunnis, and basically they migrated to Germany initially, and the father, may Allah bless him for his services now for the Ahlul Bayt. At the time, of course, he was a Sunni and his whole family were there. Their son is actually a very close friend of mine. Both their sons, they have 3 sons actually. They have 4 sons. But they're very close friends of mine.
3 important ones.
3, and what happened was, he heard actually, he was working with an individual who was telling him about the masa'ib of Fatima Zahra, salamullah alayha, and he was confused because he was saying, he was confused because he was brought up to understand that, you know, the Prophet Muhammad was surrounded by people of, you know, people who didn't cause any problems. But after he did some research, he started crying so much intensely that he realized that he's been lied to all his life, and from that he just became Shia on the spot there and then. And the children were actually 8 years old then, so they don't really understand the details of Shia, Sunnis, Islam, all these things. All that they need to know, they need to pray. So the father told them, no, you pray this, and he explained it to them. And now the children, one of them actually teaches in a Husseiniya, and the other one, who's a twin brother, he does Islamic research, where he has the PDF files of most Islamic books from all the sects, and he compares and contrasts. And the father, he actually speaks on things like Pal Talk and things like that to explain the message. So they've become servants of Ahlul Bayt through understanding the tragedy of Ahlul Bayt, and there's such an influential power. So it just goes to show that if a person really understands the intensity of sacrifice that these individuals have given for Islam, it makes the individual think, okay, well, I'm here in this life for a very short period of time. What can I provide? Yes, I'm working 9 to 5, but what else can I do? And they say that, okay, retirement age is around in their 60s. When they retire, that's it, put your feet up. The Shia say, no, you retire when you die. The service continues till you die. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean you need to be working from your 9 to 5 job, but look at our ummah, look at the struggle that we have at the moment in all the countries, Yemen, Syria, we're all under oppression. So we need to continue the service until our last breath, they say.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's amazing is, as I mentioned earlier, we're living in such a great time, you know, in a world where, as Hadith even alluded to in the early days, a world where the people of the East will be able to see the people of the West in a obviously I'm paraphrasing the Hadith.
Yeah.
In a flick of a second, and that's
yeah.
the world we're in now, a world where the whole world is connected, and people are being as exposed to the grave of Imam Hussein and the legacy of Imam Hussein as people who are living here. And I think one thing I want to try and I don't want to understate, upon reading about the history of Karbala, one thing that really I was really surprised by was that we assumed that 100 years ago, 200 years ago, you know, it was a quiet city, you know, people used to come here and there, but it's always been a thriving city. It's always had thousands of people living here. It's always had thousands of people visiting from all over the world. And I think that you mentioned that story specifically. You think about the past 1,400 years, how many stories like that are being told, not just about Shias or Sunnis, but also about non-Muslims as well, people who have been exposed to the legacy of Imam Hussein. The story of Sayyid Ali about the American soldier, I'm sure there's hundreds and hundreds and thousands of stories like that, you know, over the past 1,000 years. I think it's really an amazing thought to appreciate that we are part of this ongoing narrative that has been there for the past 1,400 years. Sayyid, we have about 8 minutes left. If you can please recite to us, inshallah, some Musa'ib. I know, of course, you're about 3 minutes left. I know you have a wonderful voice and you're here reciting Lamentations for us and reciting Martin for us. But again, we know it's the same way Imam Brother requested Da'b al-Khuzai to come to him and recite poetry about the tragedy of Karbala. I would love, in the last 2 minutes or so that we have, just a very short Musa'ib.
So this is a poem written by Brother Muhammad Taqi Huda from the UK. It is Ismail speaking and talking about the incident of Ashura from previous. It is as if Ismail laments on the day of Ashura, as he looks down upon Karbala and says, my father was spared the torture of seeing his son decapitated. In my place I found an animal substituted. As my beloved father raised that dagger, a blindfold covered his eyes. But as Shimmer raises his knife, who is there to cover Ali's eyes? Oh Lord, I beg of you, turn back time and save that ram. Let me be butchered, for I am only the child of Abraham. Take my soul and spare Hussein from this massacre, for the heavens can't bear to hear the screams of Zahra no longer. My father built the Kaaba upon the command of our Lord. He was told, call out to the people, so to my house they come toward. In that lonely desert his screams transcended time and space. Now millions flock every year, calling labbaik Allahumma labbaik. However, now Hussein stands alone and makes his call. Surely it will penetrate the souls of even those who aren't yet born. And his sacrifice and the manner in which he is being slain will be the reasons why billions Billions will scream Labbaika ya Hussein. I am reminded of a time in my infancy when I cried of thirst. With the kick of a heel, Zamzam from the ground burst. The ground exploded in awe of prophethood. I just smiled as between Safa and Marwa she stood. The cries of Hussein's children throughout the realms of resonate. And Zainab like Hajar runs frantically, Ya Hussein.
Thank you, Sayyid, for that beautiful recitation. Thank you for the beautiful words. It's been an honor once again to present you to you from the holy city of Karbala. We will be here every night at the same time, all the way up to the eve of Ashura. The show will begin with Welcome to Karbala, which is your chance to call in and request your du'as from the shrine of Imam Hussein alayhi, followed by a recitation of Ziyarat Ashura by Brother Sayyid AlHakeem. And then inshallah I'll be joining you and hosting the show with my guest Sayyid Ali Nawab, where we are tackling the story of Imam Hussein's journey from Medina to Karbala and its relevance to us today, and it will be concluding with some wasa'ib by both him and Sayyid AlHakeem inshallah. Inshallah we'll remember you in our du'as. See you again tomorrow. Wassalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.